Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unraveling one of the most intense, adrenaline-fueled stories of survival and absolute raw power. We're tracking the cinematic journey of a washed-up, heartbroken gamer who suddenly finds himself sucked right into a brutal fantasy world. But look, this isn't just your standard breezy fantasy escape. He transforms into an overpowered immortal in a realm where permadeath is the absolute unbreakable rule. I mean, think about the most punishing, unforgiving game you've ever played. You know, the kind where losing a save file literally makes you want to throw your controller across the room. Now imagine that feeling multiplied by 1,000,000,000, because in this world, a single mistake means actual death. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. What if dying in your favorite game meant dying in real life? Imagine a world so brutally difficult that it makes Dark Souls look like a total joke. The game is called Pangenia. In this nightmare of a game, even the NPCs will betray you in a heartbeat. And if you die, you lose absolutely everything and get sent straight back to square one. But what happens when your screen flashes blood red, you completely black out, and you wake up actually trapped inside this living nightmare? If you fail the mission here, your physical body back in the real world dies too. Those are the absolute terrifying stakes our protagonist is up against. So here is how our guy hits absolute rock bottom. Our main character, Hunyang, is having the worst time imaginable. He gets dumped by his girlfriend of 5 years because, well, she says he has no future. Devastated, he just locks himself away in complete isolation, grinding Pangenia for years on end, hoarding millions of soul points from countless agonizing game overs. But the exact moment he finally creates the ultimate, maxed-out character, boom, a blood-red screen sucks him right into the monitor, and the reality check he gets is brutal. He wakes up not in his comfy gaming chair, but in a scorching desert, completely bound in chains, getting whipped as a slave. The game is completely real. But here's the crazy catch. Hunyang, who's now going by his character name, Randolph, is just entirely broken right from day one. In Pangenia, the absolute maximum cap for normal player stats is a flat 10. Compared to that, Randolph is starting out at a 12. And beyond those ridiculous raw numbers, he possesses 99 secret hidden talents that automatically activate the second he needs them. A whip strike hits his back, and instantly, Monarch's heart unlocks to completely wipe out his fear and panic. He grabs a falling weapon, and boom, Master of Arms triggers, giving him unparalleled, flawless combat proficiency. He is literally breaking the game's fundamental rules from the very first second he's there. And that brings us to this absolutely staggering number, 500. Surrounded by a massive army of elite desert mercenaries, Randolph goes from a helpless chained slave to a literal weapon of mass destruction in the blink of an eye. The moment those hidden talents fully activate, he just seamlessly massacres his way through the enemy ranks. I mean, he's dodging spears by a millimeter, severing limbs left and right, and exploiting enemy openings by following this glowing blue line that only he can see. He single-handedly breaks the morale of 500 heavily armed soldiers, completely forcing their commander to step out onto the battlefield. Section 1. Taming the Snake Princess. Right after that total slaughter, Randolph has to face the music, the terrifying level 8 serpent princess Isabella von Darien. Now, in this world, anyone level 8 or above is considered among the absolute strongest entities alive. And Randolph? He is sitting pretty at level 2. It is literally like an ant trying to intimidate a lion. With a massive sword right at his throat, he has to pull off the ultimate big-brain gamer move, digging deep into his encyclopedic lore knowledge. He notices Isabella is trapped by a curse, and because he literally wrote her character lore years ago, he knows exactly what makes her tick. He looks this level 8 raid boss dead in the eye and bluffs. He claims to be a Star Bearer, this legendary NPC class required for maximum transcendence. He promises he'll cure her curse in exchange for his life. The audacity is just insane, but the bluff works flawlessly. He turns a deadly executioner into a highly powerful, albeit reluctant, ally. Section 2. Worlds Colliding. The Real-World Invasion. So after somehow surviving that absolutely impossible scenario, Randolph actually figures out how to pull up the game's menu, and he hits log out. He wakes up safely in his own bedroom, breathing a sigh of relief, thinking it was all just some bizarre, hyper-realistic fever dream. But then an emergency disaster alert blares on his phone. He looks out his window, and we get this massive, earth-shattering cliffhanger. The nightmare has actually followed him home. The boundary between the two realities is completely shattered. On one side, you have the brutal fantasy rules of Pangenia. On the other, modern-day Seoul, Korea. Giant, bloodthirsty praying mantises straight from the game are now literally tearing through the streets of his city. The safe, predictable real world is suddenly operating under apocalypse rules, and players who died in the game are being summoned back into reality as their insanely powerful avatars. And this merged reality comes with some strict, terrifying new mechanics. Mysterious golden scale fragments start appearing out of nowhere, acting as a literal ticking timer for how long players can even exist in the real world. Incredibly, Randolph realizes his in-game inventory actually carries over. He can reach into his backpack and pull magical items, like the super-fast boots of Hermes, right into real life. As these monsters ravage the city, newly awakened dimensional warriors step up to fight them, but things go south fast when a deadly elite boss known as the Putrid Mamba begins its hunt. Which leads us to this incredibly cold, cinematic line. That's enough. While trying to grab a bite at a restaurant, Randolph unluckily runs into his terrible ex-girlfriend and her incredibly arrogant, newly awakened dimensional warrior boyfriend. When the boyfriend tries to act tough and physically attacks him, Randolph effortlessly smashes the guy's face into the floor without even breaking a sweat. It's so satisfying. And right after that, when the terrifying Putrid Mamba boss attacks and actually possesses the boyfriend, Randolph doesn't flinch. He gears up in his high-level game armor and completely solos the monster in a blinding, bloody cyclone of speed. He saves the day and vanishes into the mist like a total ghost. Section 3. Conquering the Tower of Chaos. Realizing his own world is definitely no longer safe, Randolph dives right back into Pangenia to acquire an overpowered class and secure an ultra-rare companion. His destination? The legendary Tower of Spirits. But before he even steps foot inside, he brilliantly outsmarts the game's entire system to claim his ultimate class. Step 1. He faces a massive mountain guardian, the ancestral King Drummit, and bypasses the boss fight entirely simply by invoking the true name of his old max-level character, Wilhelm. Step 2. He casually walks directly into a raging torrent of cosmic fire to absorb a fragment of a dead goddess known as the Star of the Mountain. And step 3, he is reborn with the Successor of the Stars class, completely breaking his mortal limits and granting massive, permanent stat boosts. Now armed with this ridiculous new class, he enters the Tower of Spirits and is immediately thrown into the rarest, most insanely difficult trial possible, the Chaos Trial. Inside this tower, he isn't fighting your run-of-the-mill goblins or regular monsters. No, he is forced into a grueling closed-room deathmatch against over 100 perfect clones of Wilhelm, yes, his own past 5-star transcendent character. It's a completely impossible fight on paper, but Randolph actually survives by flawlessly dodging attack patterns that he has deeply memorized from thousands of hours of gameplay. He quite literally beats up his own ghost. So the crucial point here is the massive loot drop he earns for achieving this seemingly impossible feat. He completely clears the Tower of Chaos, and then actively rejects the basic spirit contracts that would have ultimately trapped him. Instead, he claims something that has never, ever existed in the game's entire history, the Celestial Spirit Egg. This unprecedented achievement is so massive that it actually alerts the constellations, the literal cosmic gods watching over the game, putting a huge target and an equally massive blessing directly onto his back. Section 4. The Massive Monster Siege. Arriving at a ruined city that was once protected by his old subordinate, Serengeti, Randolph finds the place completely overrun by an endless, swirling wave of portal monsters. If they hold back, the entire city falls. Faced with impossible odds, he devises a desperate, high-stakes, 3-step tactical plan. First, he cashes in a major favor, summoning magical druid arrows to literally blast a massive path straight through the middle of the monster horde. Second, he splits his tiny, exhausted team up to destroy 3 active monster teleporters simultaneously. And third, he isolates the terrifying boss, a horribly mutated black warrior hybrid, taking it on all by himself. 30 seconds. That is the terrifying, nerve-wracking ticking clock of this entire siege. Randolph and his team have exactly 30 seconds to destroy the final teleporter before an unstoppable black flesh hybrid is fully summoned into the world to wipe them out. It dials the cinematic intensity straight up to an 11. Randolph is dashing through the pouring rain and mud, cutting through thick hordes of reinforced monsters just to reach that portal before time runs out. With literal seconds left on the clock, and facing an opponent he absolutely cannot beat alone, Randolph turns to the city's devout holy man, Priest Andrew, and delivers this intense, chillingly badass line: "Pray only to me." He literally forces the priest to use the prayer of adoration, a forbidden technique that entirely sacrifices the priest's divine connection to his goddess. By hijacking and redirecting that prayer to himself, the priest grants our protagonist a fleeting, godlike stat buff. It is just a brilliant, ruthless display of Randolph's pragmatic evolution. Armed with this 2-second god-tier power-up, Randolph fully unleashes his old master's ultimate technique, the cleaver of heaven and earth. You have to picture the visceral thrill here. The dark, stormy sky is literally split completely in half by a blinding, massive wave of pure sword energy. The Black Warrior is instantly obliterated. The portal is shattered into dust, and Randolph saves the entire city with just a single earth-shattering strike. Section 5. To the Monster Stronghold. So, in the aftermath, having saved the city and truly proving himself to be the rightful successor of the Night King, Randolph takes a moment to tie up some loose ends. He repays Priest Andrew by purifying his deeply cursed daughter. He partially heals his old subordinate, Serengeti's curse, using his stellar energy, but most importantly for his own insane progression, he journeys deep into a dark dungeon, defeats a dungeon master, and consumes a monster core to gain a flawless, undercover disguise, the King of the Corpse Crows. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth does he need a grotesque monster disguise? Well, because of his next destination, Crenel, the Invincible Fortress. It is an entire sprawling city ruled entirely by highly evolved, incredibly intelligent monsters. Any human who dares to step even 1 foot inside is instantly executed on sight. That corpse crow disguise is the absolute only thing standing between Randolph and instant permadeath. Disguised as a monster crow alongside Isabella, who is disguised as a draconian, they bravely sneak onto a ship filled with level 8 terrors just to infiltrate the city. Their ultimate goal? To track down an infamous, extremely dangerous wanted criminal known as Isaac the Lightning Cutter, who, ironically, is another incredibly powerful character Randolph created in the past. And that leaves us with this massive edge-of-your-seat question. Surrounded by level 8 and 9 raid bosses in an invincible fortress where a single tiny slip-up means instant permadeath, will Randolph's brilliant disguise actually hold up? Or will the very criminal he created, the Lightning Cutter, be the one to finally strike him down? What an absolutely incredible journey this has been so far. I really hope this explainer helped you grasp the genius tactics, the heavy emotional weight, and the genuinely insane power scaling of Randolph's immortal journey. Until next time, keep analyzing those stats, and I'll see you in the next explainer.